What if I were to tell you that you could lease a brand new car for $9 a month? A car that has deep blue, pearl, luscious paint, that has Apple CarPlay, that has blind side monitoring, that has all of the latest and greatest in creature comforts. You would say, Roman, you are crazy, and yet, here it is. Here is our long-term $9 a month lease Nissan Leaf that we leased about 2 months ago. And in this video, I'm going to give you an update. I'm going to tell you what it's like to live with a car that costs less than an Uber-sized Starbucks. So let's start with the color. I do love this color, especially in the sunlight. It's pearlescent, it's deep blue, and it actually feels very expensive, and that's because it looks very expensive. Of course, the Leaf does not look very expensive, and that's because, well, it's a Leaf, and it's been one of the oldest, most classic electric cars out there. Now, this is the base model, the S, which means it has 147 horsepower, 40 kilowatt hour battery with, let me show you. Okay, let me show you. It must be locked. How do I pop this thing open? There we go. Look at that. With level 2 charging, and then unfortunately over here is CHAdeMO, which is a standard that is going away and being replaced by NACS, the North American Charging Standard that Tesla uses. But you know what? We never fast charge this anyway because it doesn't really fast charge, but it does get about 150 miles of all electric range. And on a beautiful day like this with the sun out, you're going to get 150 miles of all electric range. Not so much in the winter, but we will talk about that in a couple of months. The other thing that's a little bit funky about it is, of course, the design, but it's getting better. It's been refreshed. It does have underneath these very plastic hubcaps, steel wheels, which is okay, but I'm sure at some point in our 2-year ownership, one of those will go flying off and then live in some gutter somewhere. The back of the car is pretty good. It does not have some interesting things, so there is no cover. I mean, there's a cover, but we didn't get it for our model, but we did spend extra to get the emergency road kit, which was $100. So there you have it. Anyway, I'm not sure that criminals are actually out there trying to break into Leafs. This is not a car that a lot of very wealthy folks aspire to have. In fact, it seems here in Boulder that this is a car that just a lot of people drive because, well, we have a very popular Nissan dealership, and when we did our video for a $9 a month lease, it just supercharged the sales of these things, and the dealership where we bought it from sold, they said 250 of them, or at least 250 of them. Of course, there was, you know, a substantial down payment of about $2,500, but now every time I see my company credit card get dinged for $9 a month, I'm like, that's pretty darn good. Actually, $9.73 if we're being perfect. So let's talk about this. Inside, it's not that bad. You'd think it'd be kind of, you know, a sea of gray, but there is some splashes of color. There are some splashes of color, which kind of give it a little bit more life, a little bit less dour. I like the fact that we actually got floor mats that look expensive, not quite as expensive as the Rolls-Royce mats that I reviewed last week, but nevertheless, not bad. The steering wheel is plastic, but it is at least nice and thick, and the controls are basic, and that's a good thing because look, you don't have to really think hard about how to make this vehicle work. You've got your manual fan speed, you've got your temperature gauge, which is actually automatic, not dual zone. You have USB-C and USB ports for electricity. You have an eco mode, which we never use, and then you have an e-pedal mode, which I love, which regens more power to the battery and lets you do 1-foot driving. How cool is that? In the back, it's a little tight. I mean, this is, you know, a compact car, but, you know, it's not horrible. By the way, we did pay for these cup holders. That was also a $100 option. But look at my head. And this is, you know, my seating position, so I'm sitting behind myself. But, you know, if you were taking some friends to a movie or some friends out for lunch, they wouldn't hate it in here. They'd kind of actually, you know, be fine with it. And in general, there goes, just lost my mic, guys. Hold on here, Cole. The problem with these DJI mics is that once you lose them, you lose a little, I just found it. You lose a little metal clip that holds them in place. So let me fix it. I can't tell you how much time I spend looking for that somewhere down my pants, but that's another story. All right, let's take it for a ride and see how it drives. So like I said, I love the basic controls. There's not a lot of new things in here that'll put you off. Over here, if you control them, Cole. Actually, let me pull into the shade, which is just right ahead. The little gear selector, there's only one gear, is relatively straightforward. Down for drive, back or forward for reverse, and then in the middle for neutral. But I'm going to pull into the shade, and then I'll show you the displays that we have here. There we go. So I do love this. That's the battery indicator. It's really well done, and it's easy to tell how much battery is left. Here's a little here's a little eco gauge that tells you how much power you're using and then how many miles of range you have left. As you can tell, we've put on 2,555 miles in about the 2 months that we had. Otherwise, standard stock controls, standard controls for cruise control, audio, volume, relatively easy to use. And then this is a very simple system that's very colorful and actually very intuitive. So super easy to figure out, like, you know, where you want your music to come from. Settings are also very intuitive. I actually like Nissan system. It reminds me of the Uconnect 5 that FCA, which is now Stellantis, used to have. Super easy to figure out. Like, how many times have you ever tried to figure out how do I set my clock? And it's right there, easy to get to. You don't have to go through 3 menus. And then it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so that's also very good. And then, of course, you've got 2 knobs that are really handy, one for volume and one for tuning. And then there's a camera. Come on, camera. Where's my camera? Predictive course lines. Maybe there isn't a camera. I thought we had a camera, Cole. Where's my camera? Well, that's a corker. No camera. Why does it say camera? Predictive course lines, display settings. Ah, there's our camera. So we do have a camera. I knew we had a camera. All right. Took a little bit. I mean, it has to have a backup camera. That became law. God, it must be like 5 years ago now. All right, so let's see how it drives. What I really, really love about this car is the fact that even though it's got these tiny wheels and relatively tiny tires, it's got the smoothest ride out of any of the vehicles that we have in our fleet. And I mean that. I mean, we've got a Cybertruck with 35s on air suspension, and yet this takes bumps 100% better. And I think that's because if you tune a car for normal humans as opposed to people like me who love to go off-road or, you know, who have to carry a lot of weight, then the car actually has a very supple and very predictive type of ride that makes it very fun to drive, especially if you have a bad back like me. All right, we're going to give it the beans here. I don't really have any kind of power button. I'm just going to floor it. And like any electric car, it's actually pretty quick. And yeah, that's 60 right there. That's not bad. And the other thing that I really love about electric cars is they're so smooth. Once you spend a lot of time behind the wheel of an electric car and you get back into an internal combustion engine car, the first thing that kind of hits you is, what are those weird things where the car kind of lurches forward and then lurches forward again, and you're like, oh, I forgot, it still has a transmission. Whereas in an electric car, the power is just seamless. It just comes on easily. And then once you get used to one pedal driving, in other words, when you let off the gas, like I'm doing right now, the car regen, and basically you don't need to use the brakes, it becomes a very smooth and very natural, and I would say very, well, I'm going to go better. I'm just going to go with better way of driving a car, because you're not ever using the brakes, so you can not worry about having to replace the brakes because you're never on the brakes. And I think from a passenger point of view, initially when electric cars came out, some people got car sick because there was this kind of on and off sensation to it. In other words, it was like turning on and off the lights. It was on, off, on, off. And that's just because people needed to get used to it. But once you figured out that you can smoothly apply the electricity, in this case, to the front wheels, and you can smoothly let off the accelerator, then the ride becomes very serene. And as you can see, we've done a lot of reviews on this road, and these bumps are just being soaked up magnificently, even though this must have the smallest wheels of any car that we have reviewed in the last 5 years, and tiny tires at that. And it's just because it's set up for kind of this in-city driving, which makes it a perfect commuter car for work or for running errands. And you can't, shake a dead cat in Boulder without seeing a leaf. Whether you're going to the post office, whether you're going to the grocery store, they're just everywhere. And these have kind of become the Volkswagen Beetles, at least here, of their era, because they've kind of become the people's car, because they're inexpensive. Now they're built in America, and they're reliable for the most part, even though people have had issues with the batteries. But Nathan owned one for a while, then he gave it to his daughter as her college car, and they just work. And so if you don't need to cross country or road trip this, as an around the town car, 150 miles is actually just about right. So park, hit the little P there, you still have to hit that to turn it off, and easy to get in and out of. It's not too tall, it's not too high, so if you have elderly parents or an elderly back, then they're easy to get in and out of. And all in all, after having spent about 2 months with it and 2,500 miles, I can't think of a better way to spend $9 a month. Hell, I can't think of a better way to spend $190 a month, because I think that's what the Leafs are leasing for now. So if you guys are looking for great basic transportation that's relatively bulletproof, that's anonymous, and that won't cost you a lot of money, especially at the gas pump, because if you charge this up at home at night, especially if you have a charger, that second level 2 charger that you have access to, because it will take you, even with only a 40 kilowatt hour battery, many hours. I'm talking like 26 hours to charge it up on 110 current, so forget about that. But if you have a level 2 charger and you have access to that, then this might be the right car for you. Or you could do something like a crazy hack. We have a dog park next to our offices, and they have free level 2 charging, and every morning there's Teslas and Leafs and all kinds of cars just parked there, and they're not walking their dog. They're going to work and getting a free charge over the length of the day. So there are hacks that you can use to actually drive around for less than $9 a day if you take account. Actually, the insurance on this is probably the most expensive thing that we're paying for right now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll get back to you on this car, because we've got some really fun ideas for a series, so stay tuned for that, where we give it to somebody who's never driven an electric car to see what they think about it. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.